back to Evil Shenanigans World Headquarters and Training Center. As I posted last night, just a couple of pictures. We got a really cool project coming up. So we're gonna take some ADCR V2. This is 1.5 inch width. This is 3/16 thickness, and some 15 and 20. This is 1.5 inch width, and it's like 1/8 inch thickness. And so we're gonna make some Damascus. As you can see, there's no power hammer or press in our World Headquarters and Training Center. So I'm gonna keep them kind of a small billet because it's all gonna be hand hammered. So step one in making Damascus is to move the motorcycles out into the driveway so we got some room to work. Then we're gonna lay these guys out. I think we're gonna go 3-inch segments, and then we'll alternate the two pieces of steel, get them all cleaned up, weld the stacks together, and then we'll throw them in the forge, get them really, really hot, and hammer them out flat. We're gonna shoot for 40 or 50 layers. So I'm thinking I may do like 5-layer stacks, may do 2 5-layer billets, draw them out, cut them in half or maybe thirds, stack those up, and then re-weld them all again. Do that a couple of times. Like I said, we're shooting for 40, 50 layers, something like that. The higher the layer count, the more you'll see the pattern in the Damascus. The ADCR-V will etch like super dark, and then the 15 and 20, it has the N is for nickel, has a very high nickel content, so it resists the acid. So that'll be the shiny part in the pattern. And I have an idea, like, say this is gonna be the cutting edge of the knife, like want to grind in some kind of deep grooves on that side and then forge it back flat. So we'll see the pattern shift as we get closer to the cutting edge. So this is gonna end up being kind of a special edition hunter-seeker knife. I should end up with enough steel to make 2 of them, but we'll see how that goes, because we're going to lose some in the forging process to make the Damascus. As we end up, you'll have to cut off basically both ends and get it all squared back up before you restack it. So every time we restack, we're going to lose just a little bit. So hopefully I'll plan this out right, and we'll have enough steel to make the actual thing. So anyway, this is just the little welder that we have. I know we've talked about it before. I got it at Lowe's, I think, for maybe 200 bucks. It's a little flux core welder, so you don't need the gas for like the bigger MIG welders. Use argon or whatever for instead of flux. That wire is actually hollow, and in the center of it, you can't really see it, but in the center of it, it has the flux. So it kind of melts as you go. It's pretty cool. But I don't know, we've welded a bunch of crap with this. The Evil Shenanigans chopper. Like they cut the back fender off of it, so I made a new one. Welded up all the brackets. They cut the frame off, so there was nothing for the seat to tie to. So I made a seat pan, welded that. Let's see, what else? They cut the mount for the horn was missing, so I made a new mount, did all that. So you can weld really thin stuff with it. I don't recommend, if you haven't welded in a long time, starting with sheet metal. That was a terrible idea. But it'll work really good for that. And then welding up stacks of carbon steel for Damascus. I've made, I guess, probably three Damascus or forged welded type blades with it. It works just fine for that. So if you're thinking about getting Damascus or getting a welder because you want to try Damascus, you don't have to get a super crazy expensive one. Like I said, this was, I know it was under 300 bucks. It was at Lowe's. I've used the real inexpensive ones from Harbor Freight before, and they're kind of hit or miss. You know, sometimes you really do get what you pay for. I think you can get essentially the same welder from Harbor Freight, and I want to say it's, you know, maybe 150 bucks or so. I've used that one before and I did not have good results. There wasn't very much control on the amperage and voltage or whatever, so there was like almost no penetration when you laid a bead on there, even with it set up as high as it would go on the amperage and then as slow as it would go on the wire speed. It still looked like you'd squeezed out toothpaste instead of welded. It wouldn't penetrate very much. So I don't know, this one seems to work pretty good. It makes nice clean welds with a little practice. I was out of practice when I got it. I hadn't really welded in anger in like 20 years when I got that, and then started with sheet metal. It was a terrible idea, but we got it done. At any rate, so I'm gonna get these all laid out, clean them up real good. That's the next most important step. See all the surface rust, there's mill scale, there's kind of oil that's on it. So you gotta grind all that crap off. You gotta have them really, really clean before you stack them. Otherwise they're never ever gonna stick, or they'll stick in places and not stick in other places. So you gotta cut them, sand them on the grinder, get them nice and smooth, clean them off with acetone or B12 carburetor cleaner, whichever. Then stack them up, weld them. I'm gonna weld up the corners on both sides of my stack and then one in the center, just to keep everything from moving around. Then once you get them stuck, kind of grind off those center welds so they're not getting folded up in there. And then just draw it out. Then we'll grind it clean, restack it, do it again. So, all right, I'll show some updates as we move along. This is probably gonna be a long, drawn out process. So, because here's our press and power hammer right here. So it's gonna take a while. I'm shooting for that high of a layer count. So far, the highest layer count I've done is like 10. Did a 10 layer knife for my daughter. So anyway, just if you're gonna try this yourself for the first time, just work it really, really hot. Like if your forge is much like this one, probably as hot as you can get it, wide open, block everything off. And you're looking at like pretty much that bright yellow color. Once you start dipping down into orange, it's too cold, put it back in the fire. You gotta work it super, super high heat. Going by hand like this, there's no way you're gonna get it to stick otherwise. But anyway, I'd be interested if any of you guys are out there wanting to try some pattern welded steel. Let me know what you're up to. If you got any questions, I can answer them. Drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer if I can. In all my expertise of doing this like 3 times, I'll be happy to help you. All right, so there we go. I'll check back in with you guys later. All right, so here's a little progress report. We got 2 billets welded up. I ended up with 6 layers in each and got them all cleaned up. Knocked all the welding BBs off of it. So that's effectively, that's mild steel. You don't want to pound that down into your blade steel. It'll show up and it'll look like crap. So just welded up the corners, put a handle on them, and then put one down the center to keep them from popping up. Basically, you're sealing it up so air doesn't get in between your layers of steel and it oxidizes. So when we restack them, there'll be 2 layers of the same kind of steel, no matter which way I do it, down the center line. But that way they'll be symmetrical. The outside layers will be the same kind of steel. hoping to do it like this, so the 80 CRV2 will be on the outside. If it looks like I don't have enough to make what I want, I can always put like a 80 CRV piece down the center. That'll look cool too. But either way, both of these steels are really good for knife making, the 15 and 20 or the 80 CRV2. So it doesn't really matter which ends up on your cutting edge, it'll make a good knife. But that's kind of where we're at now. And so now all that's left to do is a lot of hammering. I'm hoping to get these drawn down and cut each of the 2 stacks into 3 and then restack them. So that'll be 18 a piece layers, and then stack those together and weld them back up. And so what would that, we'll have 2 18s, so it'll be 36 each. So when we stack that back up, we'll be at 64, and that's right about the area I was wanting. We'll just kind of see how it goes. It'd be cool though if I could get them down to 64 and then stack it and re-weld it again. It'd be up over 100 layers. That would be pretty dope. Anyway, that's where we are right now. I'll check in with you guys later. All right, so here's an update. That's where we're at so far. They started off about an inch thick each, so they're reduced down to about half. The goal is to get them down probably about half that again, and then cut them into 2 or 3 sections and restack it, do the whole thing over. But I kind of pulled a muscle yesterday doing this, so I'm taking it a little bit easy. I think this is going to be one of those projects that, like, I just, every now and then I'll pick one of these up and start working a billet. I'm not going to get in a big old rush with this one. There's too much hand hammering. So be a little bit more of a long-term thing, I think, because I don't want to get wore out and be like, well, 30 layers is enough, you know. But I don't know, so far so good. Looks like everything's stuck real well. The welds took. All right, well, I think we'll probably call this video for now. Go ahead and wrap this one up. When I work on it a little bit more, do some more videos as I go. I got a couple other projects coming up as soon as the stuff gets here for them. I've got some kitchen knives I'm be making. I don't know if I'll do a video on them or not, but we'll see. Anyway, well, thanks for watching. Remember to rope some of your friends in. We're still doing the 5th Element giveaway. We're over halfway to our 100 subscriber mark. So when we hit 100, somebody will win it. All right, well, you guys have a good day.